Check it out, guys. Just got this in the mail and I am pretty excited to test this thing out. This is the new Jumper T20 full-size radio, and this has a 1 watt ELRS module built right in and is a really nice size. So in the box you get the radio, you get a bright orange jumper lanyard, USB-C cable, you get a JP4-in-1 module as well as a bracket to mount it to the radio, bag of spare springs for the gimbals, a set of stickers for some customizable buttons on the front of the radio, and a quick start manual. So the T20 comes in a couple different variations. The version that I have here is the T20 with the RDC90 gimbals, which are an upgrade from the standard Hall sensor gimbals. I'm kind of curious if I'm going to notice any difference when I'm flying with these, but this is the RDC90 gimbal version with 2.4 gigahertz ELRS built right in. They also offer this controller with 900 millihertz, and both options are going to output 1 watt or 1000 milliwatts, which is pretty impressive for a radio this size. Since it's outputting so much power, they have added a big old heatsink on the back to help with heat dissipation. This is also where you're going to mount the included JP4-in-1 module if you wanted. So out of the box, this controller is running Edge TX.
Welcome to Edge TX.
And the version of ELRS that came on my radio was 2.9, I believe, so I ended up upgrading it to 3.3 or whatever the latest version is. The built-in ELRS module is the same module that's in the Jumper T Pro, so when you're flashing the latest ELRS version to this controller, just select the T Pro module. So yeah, we've got 1 watt ELRS Edge TX. We've got tons of switches on this thing. Up top we have a foldable antenna, and this folds like that, and it folds like that. Next to that we have a USB-C port. You guys see that? There you go. Right there, USB-C. This USB port will charge the controller, and you can also plug it into a computer for use with a simulator. This is also how you're going to access the internal memory. This actually doesn't have an SD card slot. It has built-in memory, so if you need to adjust the SD card contents, all you have to do is plug in a USB to the top of the controller, and on your computer you'll be able to adjust any SD card contents and add Lua scripts and do all that stuff. Staying along the top of the controller, we have 2 dials right here, and these are pretty smooth. Above those you have 2 single position buttons. These are really thin. These are 2 buttons, 1 on each side. Both sides are the exact same. So you have the 2 dials, 2 buttons, and then you have 2 single position switches, 1 on each side. Underneath those on the front of the controller, we've got 3 position switches on both sides. In the center, we have our screen, and this is actually a pretty nice screen. I really like how this looks, but this is a 1.3 inch OLED screen. Next to the screen and underneath the screen, these 4 buttons are our trim switches. We have our lanyard hook right here. We have our power button right here, and this lights up green and blue. So when you turn it on, it's blue, and then once it's on, it stays green.
Welcome to Edge TX.
Underneath the power button, there's 2 potentiometer dials, and underneath that, there's 2 sliders. You have a lot of different kind of dials and sliders on this thing. You have 6, which is pretty impressive for a controller this size. The navigation buttons are on the sides right here. We have our menu / system settings button. So if you click and hold this, it'll bring you into the controller settings. And if you click it once, it'll bring you into the model selection. We have our back button right here. And then this button right here is how you'll navigate from page to page when you're on the menus. On the back of the radio, we already talked about this, but this is the Radiator, as they're calling it, and this is going to help keep the 1 watt ELRS module nice and cool. There's also a bunch of screw holes, and you can use this to mount the JP4-in-1 module, or you can mount a Nano Bay if you wanted to run Crossfire. Under that is this little rubber cover, and this is covering an XT30 power port and a connector for an external module. Battery wise, we have this little cover back here, and this just kind of pushes down, and they include this tray. This kind of plugs into the side using a 2S balance connector, and it pulls right out. And this is meant for 21700 batteries, but you can fit 18650s. I just have these in here for now. I got to order some 21700 batteries, but 18650s fit too. They do work. They're probably just not going to last as long. But yeah, you can pretty much use this, or you can use any 2-cell battery and just plug in the balance lead to the controller, and you're good. So that's the radio. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of me using the controller, but I got it bound up with a couple of my drones and I took it with me to Supercharged in New Jersey to chase some go-karts and just kind of fly around their arcade. I was actually able to test out a bunch of new equipment at Supercharged, and I'm excited to put together a little edit of all the flight footage that I got there for you guys. But I was able to test out the T20. I used the SpeedyBee F405 mini stack that's in this cinema, but this was the main drone that I used to chase go-karts. I also was able to test out the Naked 03 Lite from Flywoo. So keep an eye out for flight footage from that project in the next week or so. Anyways, back to the controller. The thing feels really nice. It doesn't feel cheap. I really like the overall size of it. I love that Jumper is selling this with a 900 millihertz option in addition to the 2.4 gigahertz. I honestly didn't feel much difference with the RDC-90 gimbals compared to Hall sensor gimbals. They feel nice, but I really don't notice much of a difference when comparing it to my Mambo. So not sure if it's necessarily worth the upgrade. My main complaints with the radio would be that if you have to adjust the spring tension on the gimbals, disassembling this thing is not easy. There's like 8 screws on the back here, and there's wires all over the place. There's wires connected to the top, to the bottom, and just kind of removing this back cover is kind of a pain. I also really wish that they had holes in the grip or somewhere to just kind of store the stick ends. Maybe on the bottom of the controller they could have done this, since you don't have any ports or anything down here. It's kind of just an empty space, but if you could remove these stick ends and kind of store it somewhere on the radio, it would just help with overall storage. This is something that Radiomaster did on their recent radio, the Radiomaster Pocket, and you surprisingly don't see this on a lot of controllers. I know DJI does it, but Radiomaster did it on this one, and I really like it. But you can remove the stick ends and then you put it in the back of the controller, and it just makes storage nice and easy. I feel like the T20 could have really benefited from that. That's going to do it for this video. If this helped you out, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more FPV content. Leave the video a like. Keep an eye out for flight footage from Supercharged, where I tested out this controller as well as the SpeedyBee stack and the Naked 03 air unit. And I also tested out this little charger. I'm going to have a video on this coming out soon. This thing's sick, but I took this with me. And yeah, keep an eye out for that flight footage. And if you have any questions about the Jumper T20, leave a comment down below.